Welcome back to the Bearded Console Gamer, and today I'll be taking you through my first hardware impressions for the Xbox Series X and Series S consoles. We'll be getting into the look and feel of the new systems, their build quality, improvements made to the next-gen controllers, and just generally talking around what it's like to actually have these technological marvels in our homes. Oh, and just to indulge the freaks out there, I'll also be throwing in some size comparison content to boot. That's right, earlier this week an extremely jacked stork delivered unto me two freshly birthed consoles, and here they are in all their next-gen glory. Just to reiterate, today we'll only be addressing the physical components that come in the X and S boxes, not how the consoles themselves perform. We're looking at the chassis here, not the engine. I'll put out another video later this month that tackles the performance of the consoles, but I really wanted some more time before weighing in on the subject. Now, as stated, this isn't going to be your regular unboxing video, partially because I've already had them for over a week now, and also just because there's a million of those out there and the world doesn't need another one cluttering it up. But I do have to give a quick shout out to the obvious care and attention that Microsoft put into the packaging and presentation of these beautiful monsters. First impressions matter, especially when you're talking about a luxury piece of kit that costs an arm and a leg to buy and that people have been looking forward to for literally years. Thankfully, Microsoft understood this, and took the time not only to build a powerful, aesthetically pleasing piece of hardware, but also to present it in a way that makes the unboxing experience as special and enjoyable as possible. First up, the box art for both systems is beautiful and clean, and the interior follows suit. Lift the lid on the Series S and you'll see the console wrapped in a white protective sheath and held in place by recyclable packaging bearing the Xbox logo. Elegant, simplistic, and fully recyclable. What more could you ask? Dig into the box a little deeper and you'll find a brand spanking new white controller, which we'll get into a little bit later, along with a classic figure of 8 power cable and an HDMI, both of which boast a silky smooth rubberized texture. 10 out of 10 on hand feel there alone. The Series X, being the more expensive console, offers an even more premium unboxing experience. In short, it's packed in a gorgeously designed box featuring the Master Chief himself on the back, which is a little awkward if you ask me. But if you slice through the sticky bindings and crack the lid on that bad boy, you'll be greeted by a beautifully presented, absolute unit of a console. I mean, just look at how chunky it is. Once again, the good folks at Microsoft offer up a tactile HDMI and power lead as part of the deal, along with a Virgin controller colored black to match the livery of the X. Now, no amount of PR content prepared me for just how tight and compact the Series X was going to be, or just how thick a boy the X would turn out to be. But I'm going to attempt to convey it to you thirsty jackals with the help of my very own size comparison footage. Let's get weird. We'll start with the obvious. Feast your dirty eye orbs on the Series X next to the Series S. Utterly filthy. Why not both of them with the One X in between? Have at it, you little teasers. And here are the boys with last gen's PlayStation offering and a young baby Switch. But enough modern consoles, let's get a little bit old school. Here's the new gaming battleship next to a Nintendo GameCube, and look, here's its daddy, the N64. Tired of me comparing it to other consoles? Fine, you ungrateful children. Here are the new transfer students next to a Black Series Mandalorian figure, and also a little baby Yoda. Here it is next to a much-loved Pokemon Yellow cartridge, and now my dog. You know what, this is my video, and I get to decide what's compared and when, and I've decided to compare the Series X and the Series S with a further two burly Series X consoles. Does any other content provider on these internets provide you with that much next-gen goodness in a single frame? No. Anyway, here's the whole gang. Okay, now it's time to towel yourself off because we are going to talk controllers. In terms of tech, the new controller really hasn't deviated too much from the Xbox One offering, but there are a few subtle changes. For one, the front mold has been smoothed out and we now have a circular raised cross D-pad which is clearly based off of the Elite, which I have here for comparison. There's also now some textured dimpling on the underside and the triggers of the controller, and we've got the classic central buttons with the addition of a new child, the share button. And I don't know where they got that from, but it's such a neat idea. Anyway, as with the last generation, the buttons and triggers all just feel perfect to use, and I have zero complaints. It's very clicky. But the hand feel score for the controller this time is just off the charts. This is probably the most comfortable controller I've ever had in my entire life. This is partly because I'm a small-handed man, and Microsoft's new controllers have been made to be comfortable all the way down to the tiny hands of your average 8-year-old. This was done by sculpting the grips and rounding off the bumpers and other elements around the triggers. And before all of you big-handed freaks out there start mashing away at your keyboard with your oversized sausage fingers in a vain attempt to write in the comments section, rest assured that Xbox's own Ryan Whitaker has stated that your degenerate, dustbin-poured kind will not be adversely affected by the change. Seriously though, I honestly thought that I was going to pick up the Series X controller and play with it for a few hours before going back to my Elite, but it felt so good that I didn't end up actually making the change back again for a couple of days after I got the console. When I did go back to the Elite controller, it felt noticeably larger and heavier to the point that I'm still moving between the two as of recording. I'm just really hoping that when Microsoft releases the 3rd generation Elite that they follow the smaller form factor of the new next-gen controllers, because it is beautiful. Back to the consoles, it's clear from the first glance that both are phenomenally well-engineered pieces of tech. Both follow a simple, clean design language and importantly have physical buttons, which is a big thing for me because I hate touch buttons. The concave top of the X is an incredibly satisfying aesthetic feature which adds some much needed flair to the whole console without making it look out of place. By the way, if you look carefully into the top of the X when the fan is off and in just the right position, you can get a little peek at that compact heatsink. My only complaint, if you can even call it that, regarding the look of the X is that I wish the green on the inside of the top vents was a little more pronounced. Also, I would have loved to have seen some subtle interior lighting, but I understand why they skipped that. Also, the Series X seems to pick up fingerprints like crazy, but it's only going to be a noticeable problem if you're constantly picking it up and moving it around a lot, and considering the size and weight of the thing, it's probably not going to be happening too often. My main reaction to the side of the Series S was just me repeatedly squealing that it's so small, and how could they have done this? How did they fit all of that nonsense in there? But once that fever passed, I noticed the overall quality of the hardware and some of the beautiful design choices made when creating this thing. From the simple geometry underpinning the design to the contrasting black fan, which I didn't think I would like, but it turns out I love, and even the "Hello from Seattle" detailing etched into the side. That same sentence, by the way, can be seen molded into the base of the Series X. In a previous video where I contrasted the PS5 with the Series X, I predicted that the design language of the latter would allow it to blend into a room, and that, despite its monolithic size, that it's likely to have an incredibly low impact on the overall look of your living space. As is always the case, I was extremely correct. Case in point, the X is way too big to have standing up in my entertainment suite, and I wasn't willing to lay it on its side like a pervert, so it just sits on my bedroom floor. Despite the prominent position and the fact that backlit by my standing light it looks like an ominous cyclopean techno-god, I more often than not completely forget that it's in the room, thanks to a combination of its minimalist design language and the fact that it's damn near silent almost all of the time. Meanwhile, the compact nature of the Series S means that it'll basically fit anywhere you need it to, like a baby techno-god. Anyway, those are my initial thoughts on unboxing and living with both systems. Let me know what you think of the next-gen consoles in the comments, including the PS5, which I cannot wait to get my filthy little hands on. As always, if you liked the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to stay tuned for upcoming content.